we have seen how the Reformation movement and its ideas were on the rise, and it was impacting various sort of spheres. So in order to understand how exactly the Reformation ideas and the Reformation movement impacted the society, we also have to learn that it was not just the society but also the political and the economic spheres that the Reformation had an impact on. So it was all three of these spheres that we need to learn about. So the very first impact that happened after the Reformation movement took place was in the way the Catholic Church was structured. Now we know that the Catholic Church was the most important institution that organized the society. But this Reformation movement that happened attacked the internal structure of the Catholic Church and stated that this Catholic Church had become a very dominant institution. So we see that the schism being one of the factors that is reforming the Catholic Church, that is impacting this structure. So the schism or the Great Schism is the conflicting episode that happened. So it was a conflict that arose within the Catholic Church and divided the church in 1054 into Eastern and Western churches. So we see that this conflict, this schism happened because of the difference in opinions on the ideas of the church with respect to political and religious ideas that the people had. So therefore we see that there is a breakup of the Roman Catholic Church into East and West. Now the second factor that gave an impetus, a push to the Reformation movement was the growth and spread of Protestantism. So the rise of Protestantism was in fact what sort of made the Catholic Church rethink about its ideologies as well. So we see that Protestantism is becoming popular at this point of time, and the early Christian church got firstly divided into Eastern Orthodoxy and Roman Catholic, and from Roman Catholic we see Protestantism emerging, which again, as we have studied, it got divided into Calvinism, Anglicanism and Lutheranism. Now, because the Protestantism was on the rise, then it had become widespread. Of course, the church had become very conscious about the structure and the ideologies that it was based on. Now, to prove itself to be a just institution, the church established a movement against the Reformation movement. Now, this movement was also one of the impacts of the Reformation movement, which was known as the Counter-Reformation movement, because it tried to counter the Reformation movement that was taken forward by Martin Luther. Now, here in this picture, you can see how the Catholic Church members are discussing about the ideological changes that have to come by during the Counter-Reformation movement. Now, to prove itself to be a just institution, we saw that the Catholic Church had to make certain adjustments, right, in the internal structure. So what was it actually changing? So we have seen that the church primarily had been, into the sale of indulgence and was acquiring money from people. So the first thing that it did was it put a ban on this sale of indulgence and any sort of fees that was being taken for the ceremonies to be performed. The second change that the church focused on was to become more tolerant towards, the vernaculars, the local languages, and it allowed people to now preach in local or other languages that were comfortable for them. So we see that service books such as the Bible, which was originally written in Hebrew and Greek, was now translated into Latin. And this became the official Bible of the Roman Catholic Church, which was known as the Vulgate. Now, not only, was counter-reformation important, not only was restructuring important, but it was important to sort of stop the widespread influence that Protestantism had. Now, in order to do that, the Catholic Church now ideated the Society of Jesus. So we see the formation of Society of Jesus by a saint called Saint Ignatius of Loyola, who established this society, and the followers were known as Jesuits. Can you tell me then who established the Society of Jesus? Was it Karl Marx, Max Weber, Saint Ignatius of Loyola, or Martin Luther? It was Saint Ignatius of Loyola. Now, one of the followers of the Society of Jesus, who was known as Saint Xavier, took forward this Society of Jesus and propagated the ideas in China and Japan. So we see him spreading it in China and Japan, who also propagated Christianity there. So this is a picture of Saint Xavier. The impact of Reformation was not only positive, and it had certain negative impacts as well. Now, these negative impacts could be seen in form of various conflicts that were occurring in the society. One of the examples of the conflict was the 30 Years' War that started from 1618 and ended in 1648. Now, these wars were fought between the Catholic and the Protestant states of the Holy Roman Empire to decide which group would ultimately govern Europe. So the conflict was basically on which faction of Christianity was more pure. The 30 Years' War ended with the Peace Treaty of Westphalia, which was signed in 1648. Now, at this point of time, then we see when Protestantism is sort of gaining grounds, we see that there are kings and rulers who are also at this point irritated with the Christian Catholic Church because of its dominant character. And we see that there are monarchs rising, absolutist kings rising, who want now to rule autonomously, to rule independently without the dictates of the church. So, the rise of the absolutist states was also one of the impacts of Reformation. We see that the monarch has the maximum power and establishes a centralized sort of power which is very, very strong. And these monarchs, these absolutist leaders or kings were also, making huge efforts to make their regions very distinct in nature, so that it could stand out to be different from the other regions, so to provide a distinct identity. Now, this very factor of them trying to make a distinct identity for their region gave rise to the concept of nation states. So the absolute rulers or monarchs and the absolutist states gave ultimately rise to the nation states. So this is Frederick the Great of Prussia and Catherine the Great of Russia, who were two absolutist leaders in history. So the rise of nation states is also one of the most important political impacts of the Reformation movement. So we see that the primary importance of these nation states was that they gave rise to the nationalist sentiments, which ultimately provided them with their nation and state boundaries. Now, the concept of a nation was something that provided a very homogeneous environment, right? A homogeneous environment is basically that these sort of places did not have distinct boundaries. For example, France, Germany, Poland, all these places did not have distinct boundaries. They were all small, small regions. They were not nations primarily. But later, when the nationalist feelings are, arising and there are distinct boundaries that are being created, so the idea of the nation is providing them with a homogeneous environment, even if they live with different sort of identities. They live with heterogeneous factors. So one sort of region was different from the other region. So these were the heterogeneous factors. But the nation sort of combined them, provided them with the nationalist feeling that provided them with the oneness. So this was the point of time. Then we see that the Christian Catholic Church no more is in power. The supreme power is sort of crushed, and it is no more the supreme head of the state or even the society, right? Because the power structure is now changing, and the kings and the monarchs are much more powerful than the church. So the economic sort of policies that were established by the church is also not in use anymore, and there are new economic policies that are coming up. So there is a change in the economic structure as well. So we see that this was the point of time when, Reformation impacted the economy. So we see new ideas of economy being discussed, and they are coming in the forefront. New ideas of economy like that of the free market and that of mercantilism is on the rise. The free market concept established that traders could now, function and trade without any restrictions. And mercantilism primarily promoted capitalism. So we see that these ideas of economy are on the rise because of the way the political structure is changing. Therefore, we saw how exactly the Reformation movement, that was primarily a religious movement, at the end inspired not only a religious change but also socio-political and economic changes that would ultimately sort of create the structures, the ideas of the new world and the modern world that we live in today. Don't forget to subscribe to our channel and hit the bell icon. You can also register for free at deltastep.com or download the DeltaStep app to get access to all our 5,000 plus amazing videos as per your school syllabus. Master each topic with our adaptive practice technology. Get million plus questions with step-by-step solutions and unlimited mock tests. Get all your doubts resolved instantly, learn via games, and win amazing prizes like PlayStations and iPads. So at DeltaStep, learning is not just fun and easy, it is rewarding too. So register for free now.